a band. You hear it?
It is necessary for the recording of sound to convert the sound waves to corresponding changes in light. The sound waves produced by my voice are transmitted through the air to the microphone, where these sound waves are converted to changes in an electric current. These variations in the electric current are then amplified and used to control the light. This varying beam of light falling on the photoelectric cell produces variations in the electric current, which are directly proportional to the variations in the light beam. The sound track. As the varying electrical current in the photoelectric cell is small, a vacuum tube amplifier is required to increase it to the point where it will operate a loudspeaker. Sound track.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Occult Rejects. And this week we're coming back at you with episode 3 of the Chakras series, which will end up being a 4-part episode for sure. This episode we are just going to stick with the throat and the third eye chakra. And as usual, like I had the last 2 weeks, I have 2 amazing co-hosts with me covering this topic. One of them, Teresa from the Spiritual Gangsters and from my show. Would you like to say what's up to everybody and let people know what's your deal and where to find your amazing show?
Sure. Well, thank you for having me. What is up?
Going on?
Yeah, so I also co-host the Spiritual Gangsters podcast with you, which is really fun. It's more like personal stories, transformation, cool chats for awake and aware people. So everyone can come check that out on YouTube, Rumble, and major podcast platforms. And then, of course, also co-host NY Patriot show with you, which is a lot of fun.
Yes.
Always. So, yeah, come check it out.
Awesome. Good stuff. Yes, and the link for your show is in the bottom as well. And then we have the man, Louie. What is going on, bud?
What's up, guys? How's it going? Glad to be back.
Good.
Glad to be back. Hell yeah, dude. Rocking another series. I like talking about this energetic stuff, energetic concepts with you guys, and then it's cool because I like doing it with like doing stuff with other people, because then we just kind of either start bouncing off each other's ideas, or then freaking you'll take me down a rabbit hole, or I didn't know about this, and so I don't know. So it's cool. You know?
Yeah, that's really how I thought our planetary series was, honestly. When we first hooked up, I was like, yo, this is great. We were bouncing off of each other and everything. And that's why I was like, I got to get them back on.
Yeah. That's always fun. You know, it makes for good stuff. And then it's fun, which is what I'm trying to do as well. You know what I mean? And so,
you don't want it to be boring, you know?
Yeah. I'd rather try to avoid it, you know? And yeah, but good shit, man. Freaking glad to be back. And yeah, so it'll be cool to do. So I guess today we got the.
Well, let everybody know your show, too. You forgot to mention.
Yeah. So my podcast is Uncannymysticminds, and pretty much on all major platforms. I pretty much do Spotify for the videos, and then now I'm starting to upload things on YouTube. I'm venturing there too now, so I'm starting to upload more there too. So yeah, so that's pretty much where I'm at.
Good stuff, man. I noticed you've been getting on a lot of good guests lately too.
Yeah, man. I've been, getting blessed in a sense of people, you know, wanting to help share space with me and give me camaraderie. And then freaking, I end up like learning hella shit, you know what I mean? Because there's so many damn deep people out there. And then freaking, so I like to be able to soak some of that in. And then I end up learning like lessons like from days on there afterwards. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. So,
you know what, you know what's funny? It's like I was, I think in the last few weeks, I've just been like, I've been seeing like, probably just from Instagram, honestly, like you posting about your shows and stuff. And I was like, damn, I wish Louis would have had a show when I first got into magic. Cause it was like, it's like your show touches on like so many different aspects of like magic, or just like, you know, not so much witchcraft, but like it does touch on like so many different types of styles,
like
ideas.
Like esoteric philosophies and occult practices and
Definitely,
stuff like that.
yeah. And I was like,
yeah.
he would have been a great show to just learn about so many different types of topics and styles of stuff.
Yeah, that's why I'm jumping in with people like from like a lot of these kind of backgrounds lately, because like my initial thing for me was like energetic concepts. Like I was more of an energy guy, and then so that's why now like I'm learning and I'm trying to dive into like little holes, about the esoteric stuff and occultic stuff. And then lately I've been into the freaking, I've always been into it, but I'm getting more deeper in it in like psychic phenomenon and like mediumship. I've always been into that kind of stuff. And then freaking, that's probably like one big reason why I like playing cards or some shit. You know what I mean? But yeah, and then, so yeah, just things like that. And then I don't know, like lately too, I've been like, just like what's been in my head is just like, I don't know, like I just want to be like, I still want to like be like goofy or funny, like not serious. That's what I mean. I want to be like officially still not serious. Like no matter what kind of stuff I talk about, like, cause like whether it's dark things or not, but I still want to be like goofy, like kind of like goofy and shit.
No, I get that. I get that for sure.
Where I can talk like where people don't care to say whatever on my shit, and I don't care what I say in a way. You know what I mean? I want to have that like non-serious, like just kind of be goofy like that. Yeah.
Lighthearted.
Yeah.
There we go. Took the words out. Yeah.
Awesome. Good stuff. So yeah, the link for his show is in the bottom as well. I highly suggest to go check that out. If you haven't listened to the Planetary series, I highly suggest that out. And you can even go over to Louis and listen to it because he has it as well, right?
Yeah.
If I'm correct.
Yeah, we both got it. Yeah, check either one of them out. Yeah, it's pretty good stuff, if I might say.
And you're gonna share. I could be wrong, but you were gonna share this too on your end as well, too, right? Afterwards.
Yeah,
Awesome.
Hell yeah.
Nice. So
hell yeah.
Yeah, if you're just catching it now, maybe part 1's out, and you could go back to his show and listen to it there.
Yeah.
So, yes, and if you haven't listened to the first 2, I do highly suggest to go back and listen to those before you jump into this one. That's my opinion, not just to get you to hit play again or to get another click, but honestly, I just think it would make sense to start from episode 1.
Yeah,
so.
I for sure highly recommend that because it just so happens to kind of be or work out that like you learn like the chakras have like a story, and then the story starts from the beginning, and it just so happens to be at the base where we started our episode 1. That's just the way, because you have to get through certain things before you get to the next things. That's why now in today's episode where we talk about the throat and the third eye, this is like the official beginning of spirituality, like the spiritual centers, as they call it. Like on the last episode where we ended with the heart, that was the bridge or the transition of the physical from the spiritual, where it starts to be a divide of like where you can jump onto there. So today we're spiritual, Yeah.
I've often even wondered, like sometimes I know, a lot of people point it out with Taylor Swift. I don't know why with her, but they tend to point out bridges in her videos or something like that. That it's always like showing occultism, which I would not doubt. I actually, I do believe that Taylor Swift's actually music videos are peppered with occultism. It's just done conservatively, in a sense. I don't think it's as blatant, but I do. I have like really started wondering like if that bridge actually is for that for the heart chakra, or showing like if you think about it, you have the bridge and then you have the water underneath. That's current. Again, your heart has current running through it. So I often wondered, is that what the bridge is showing you from here going up to here now?
Yes,
going up.
That's very good. Yes, that's very good. Yeah, I like that current one. I never heard about that one. Yeah, because real quick, back on the Taylor Swift thing. I don't really know too much of the videos, but what I did hear, I forgot where I heard this. I don't know, but in terms of like, how they'll have like a certain amount of songs on a CD or album, right?
Yes.
So, and then she'll have certain ones that like she'll have like, however that person explained it is that like it's or like it'll be like 13 minutes and 33 seconds. Like, you get what I mean? Like she has these things that are hitting at certain marks of the album. And then it's like very like you could tell it's like done at a specific like they made it like that exactly like specific.
There was not that I was a huge fan of this band. I really liked only one of their albums. There was another one I thought was okay. Morbid Angel, old fucking death metal band. And I guess one night I was just like bored and I was like, oh well, I'll look them up on MTV, not MTV. on YouTube to see if they've done any like I guess like interviews before, because I was just wondering what these dudes are even like, you know, because their music is pretty, you know, extreme. And there was one of them in like the interview, the guy was actually saying that the guy came out and admitted that he was like getting into the Kabbalah. I forgot what I think they might have been into Sumerian shit prior. And he said he was like getting into the Kabbalah, and he even mentioned like there was I forgot what album they were talking about, but he said every single song, the amount of minutes and seconds is on purpose. They said everything on that album mathematically is done on purpose.
So he's admitted it.
You know, and this is from like a death metal band that like, you know, nobody probably even knows who the fuck they are anymore or ever really were. I mean, they were big at one point for death metal, but like, you know, that's like, you know, a nobody.
Yeah, but it wasn't like mainstream type.
Exactly.
Of thing. Yeah. That's a trip, dude. Yeah, because the engineers or the people back there, I'm sure like they have like their exact reasons and the exact, you know what I mean? Like they make that first, like they make that version of that blueprint part first before they start diving into like the artist. Like then they just edit the artist to cater to their blueprint, probably. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like real quick, like with the bridge thing, when you're talking about like the bridge and all that, like that's pretty much like a big thing of like what's like I don't say that it doesn't get unnoticed, but what's happening that people don't talk about is like all this stuff that people talk about happening all over the world all the time. It's the gap in people bypassing the like that bridge, like that heart, and then they want to get to this version of spirituality, but losing the heart. And then so that's where all that shit, because they're like forcing it, or like they're like bypassing it. You know what I mean? Like they're just like they're just hitting that emergency. Like I'm gonna go through it anyway. And then when you go through it like that, hella consequences end up happening. And then so that's probably like a reflection of like the outer worlds that we see here, or even our inner worlds. You know, and so that's kind of what's happening there too. Like they try to freaking avoid the steps. That's why it's good to hear the show from the beginning so you can catch the steps. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
Even like, just for the intro that I have an idea for the last episode, which is going to be pretty weird, you know, like all my intros are. I would think it might make maybe a little bit more sense to you if you watch it from the beginning and the things that we have said throughout the show. So.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, for sure. You know, like a real quick thing, it's like in the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you know, you got to have certain things. Like here's like, dude, like around these parts, you need shelter, man. You need food. You know, that's a big. So without that, it's hard to think about these other ventures and projects. You know what I mean? So first you got to get your nervous system down. You know what I mean? Like with that stuff. So that way you're not in fight or flight, you know, because now you got to find your food, right? So from there, you can move on to, once you got past that stuff where you're okay, where you can like, where you feel like you're not barely, like kind of barely surviving or barely hanging on. Once you establish that, this is the beginning of learning of getting your sense of duality. And that's why there's the push and the pull of like the orange chakra. That's why it's like sexual, like in and out, like
ebb and flow,
right? And tides a little bit. And then this is the beginning of your identification. It's where because you're starting to see that there's this duality. So then this is like your initial takes of it, you know? So that's why a lot of that stuff happens when you're like very little. And then we get to the yellow, the solar plexus, which is you establish your identity, you know? And then so from there, there's a lot of the empowerment of like, yeah, like this is all me, like I did it. But it's your ID, it's your identification, how you established that bottom part of the below part of the orange. It's how you finalize that.
You know, I feel like the going up past the solar plexus is just dropping the ego that you could have had in the solar plexus.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? It's almost like
it's a refining. It's like
it's really just refining that.
The conclusion of it.
Yeah.
And then so once you're all about yourself and you get all that, then you do the beginning of like the compassion and then like the love relationship. It's like a reciprocation, you know what I mean? Camaraderie, like that type of thing. So then that was hard. And then so now here we are today. So that's why it's good to kind of like we wouldn't be able to start to talk about spiritual stuff without us breaking down, like, you know, your nervous system and then your initial IDs and all that. You know, you have to do all that first.
Yeah. Well, I really even think like from this episode on, really a lot of it, in my opinion, with these chakras, I mean, even though they're still in your body, they're very much not really of the physical world that we're talking about with these things. I think this all starts to really get more of just spiritual or your spirit, really. It's hard to explain, but I think it's beyond the physical body, really, that these things kind of go with. You know,
Yeah,
what do you think, Teresa? I see you shaking your heads.
It's exactly what it is. I think, you know, once you get past the heart chakra and up, it's very much spiritual. Like the bottom half, like you're saying, it's physical needs, like the Maslow's hierarchy. It's definitely physical stuff more so, which of course it all relates to ego and whatnot. But as you get higher up, for sure, it's more and more spiritual. And then converging at the third eye, I find it interesting that the third eye, not jumping ahead, but that's where like a lot of our energies converge. So like, I don't know if you guys have heard of the nadis.
Yeah.
Which are like energetic pathways, right? So you have Ida and Pingala, and then they sort of crisscross at the different chakra points, like intersecting. And then the final point is in the third eye. So that's like the culmination of our energetic pathway, which travels up and down. If your chakras are clear and unblocked, the energy travels easily, right? So it's important to fulfill those more physical things and conquer those first before you can attempt to master your higher self, for lack of a better term, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see that as like the Kundalini. That's like the Kundalini, you know, like the snake.
Exactly.
And then it's
and like the caduceus is like that symbol with the two snakes going up and down the rod. Uh-huh. Yeah, so that central point is called Sushumna Nadi. So that's like the one that goes up and down. So when you were talking about Taylor Swift with the bridges and like rivers underneath, to me the river could even be like Sushumna Nadi. That's like your main like energetic channel, just straight up and down your body where all the chakras intersect, right? And then I don't know, the bridge could be just like connecting points like on your body, like you're saying.
Well, that's funny because even that even though like the bridge would be going the other way, I'm still like referencing or thinking of the moon card. And to me, the stream would still actually be the middle pillar, even though it's between the bridge going a different way. So even what you're saying, I'm still picturing that still for me down the middle of my body.
It still applies. And like, interesting, like when I was just brushing up on some stuff like for today's show, and one of the things I found about the third eye chakra, it said that it's explicitly like a feminine energy.
Yeah.
The third eye is more like a receptive energy.
Yeah, right? for sure. Right. Yeah, like the bottom more fiery ones are very masculine, and then as you leave the yellow, and then like once you get from middle up, it gets more feminine.
I just thought that was really interesting, and you're relating it to the moon.
Yeah.
So very, very feminine.
And and like I guess like when you mentioned like the bridge, like that Nadi bridge, that's like the middle kind of pillarish one. Like for me, I was thinking about, imagine you have Kundalini, the snake, or like that, you know, like that, those two Nadis you explained, and then but imagine that the middle base is fucked up. You're gonna have a crooked snake. So at that point, you know what I mean?
That's not good.
It's gonna have Peronis.
That's what I thought about. I'm like, there's gonna be a crooked snake no matter what. And
that's not good.
Yeah,
no,
I like snakes, but I don't want to be a crooked snake.
We got enough of those in politics.
Rhythm, you know, because you're gonna lose your rhythm if you're crooked like that, and a snake needs his rhythm. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, you know how like, you know, not to be cliche, but when people say like, oh, you know, secret societies and Illuminati and whatnot, and it's always represented by the like one eye, you know. So if you think of that with like third eye chakra and like Illuminati or like Freemasons are obsessed with like collapsing the two pillars into one, but it's like your two energies intersect into one at that spot.
Yeah.
So it's like it makes sense.
No, I totally
that's like the symbol. Yeah. Right. It makes sense that that's the symbol for it because it really does become two pillars or two eyes into one singular site.
Well, that even fits perfectly with like my idea of even like the tree of life. I think the spheres are the female energy that's holding it in line, and I think the lines is the projective male energy coming out of it.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Just like a light bulb,
That
how
makes sense.
the
Yeah,
bulb
that makes sense.
the bulb itself is the feminine energy, but the light coming out of it's the male projective energy. Now, if your third eye does open up and emit light, that would be the feminine shell that it's in, and the light coming out would be the male energy escaping.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, like, I do even see how that fits with the
Totally.
way I believe that, magic works.
Yeah, I didn't know that about the tree. That makes sense. That's cool.
Yeah,
it's like with the illumin, I think of I think of spark of the mind. So that has to do with all this part anyway. It's like when you spark it up or something like that, when you realize it's like divine or something.
Totally.
And I think that's when it sparks.
I was even saying, because I think she had sent me a picture earlier today of some transgender person with wearing.
Oh, I was like, what did I send you?
Yeah, no, I'm trying to think of the name. I don't know the person's
Hunter
name.
Schaefer.
That was in that was actually in that show that I said that I thought was very occult. Euphoria. Again, with even the feather, I was saying, the whole phrase light as a feather. I even do think that the feather, again, Mott held the feather, Jimmy Page, that was his symbol, the feather. I do think the feather, even like the Native Americans, how they put them around their head, I think the feather is actually kind of like showing like the light going down the middle of your brain, and just like a little bit like, as crazy it is, I do think like it is actually showing something to do with light inside your head. The feather.
Well, in Egyptian mythology, isn't the weighing of the heart against the feather?
Yeah.
Again, you have to match the heart with the mind.
Right.
Yeah. Very well said. And
Sure.
real quick, just before we go forward, I do want to mention for me, what another thing that I think is interesting with the book that I had used, and even like it does kind of match the way I look at things. The last chakras that we've done have all kind of fit an element: fire, air, water, and earth. For me, going forward, I think it's more of now like sound and light. Like it's not like your typical actual element anymore. Yes. And I do think that is something just, worth noting before we go forward. I'm sure we'll bring it up again, but it is interesting how
it's getting more meta, more non-physical,
Yeah. We're going into the metaverse, boys.
Oh shit.
Look, we're getting into the quantum.
Yeah. The optical cable that we're using right now.
That's like a trigger word for me now.
I know.
I've been hearing it so much lately. I get so triggered.
Oh, it's so true. It's so overplayed right now. They're really pushing hard on that shit.
You know what I did today? You know what I did today? Because I was hearing so much about it today, like today of all days. I actually looked it up, and man, it was just like, it didn't make any sense. Like just how when they try to explain it, it just did. Even the definition on Google didn't make sense. Like it's kind of like just going around a lot of stuff. And then it's just saying that like, the magnitude of your output is the same as the radiation input. Like it's just very easy. Like it's nothing too, you know what I mean? Like I don't know, but maybe I'm just triggered by it. I don't know. I'll leave it at that.
Quantum trauma.
Yeah, I'll leave it at that.
That's funny.
Quantum trauma.
We're all gonna have that soon.
Yeah, for real.
Oh my God!
Now the name of this one. Why don't you say it there, Teresa? This one.
Oh, the throat chakra in Sanskrit is Vishuddha chakra.
Okay.
Gesundheit.
Thank you. Yes, and actually, I found it really interesting. Something I did not know was that it means purification or especially pure, which I found really interesting. Yeah, because I feel like I don't know. Well, I want Louis to start off.
Well, no, you can go ahead. Go ahead.
I want to hear. I'm invested in now.
Yeah, go ahead, and then Louis will go, and I'll wrap it up. Don't worry about it.
Sure. Well, so in general, obviously, the throat chakra is about our communication. So, like speaking the truth, honoring your truth. So, for me personally, like I have struggled with a very tumultuous relationship, like with my mother. I'm sure a lot of females can relate to this. So I found it interesting that when the throat chakra is like out of balance, either overactive, you can be harshly critical, of people, or like interrupting people a lot, very abrasive. Lying is associated with that as well.
Oh, wow.
And when your throat chakra is underactive, you are diminutive and like quiet or like shy, things like this. Yeah. So not that I'm a shy person in general, but I feel like your energies can ebb and flow when you're around certain people, right? Sure. So it's interesting that I realized this throughout the course of my life. Like when I'm with my mom, I automatically like reduce my energy, my throat chakra reduces, and I have a literal anxiety in my throat. You know, like that's where when I became very aware of my own bodily energy, I can feel it like right here. That's anxiety for me, is all in the throat.
Yeah.
And then like her, when she's with me, is extremely critical and harsh. But when she's with other people, she's totally fine. And when I'm with other people, I'm totally fine. So it's just very funny how like when you are in other people's energetic field, you start to really like have these imbalances like pop up, right? And it's not until you learn to set like certain boundaries, or when I say to her, like, you know, when I'm firm in like speaking my truth to her, that then I feel better.
Yeah,
it's weird, right? Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, because it's like, you know, because it's like tied to expression, and then so part of your expression is expressing how you feel, how you really feel. You know what I mean? And it's like the refinement of like the how you feel starts down in the orangey, you know, kind of section, but when you refine it, when you like let it all out, like literally, then that's why you have to kind of keep that part true, because if not, it's gonna get tied up. And that's why how you said you get anxiety, or people be like like if they're like that and like they're just kind of by themselves or just like about to talk, it's because of a throat chakra situation. You know what I mean? It's like that weird itch that they can't scratch all of a sudden. Or for me, I used to stutter. Like it was weird because I didn't like stutter as like a kid, but because I had been holding back my throat chakra so much, like not letting it out, like literally, right? I ended up like stuttering. I remember like in high school, I had from there on, I would stutter sometimes. And then so even now I must still like, you know, kind of deal, like I don't stutter now, I don't think like that, but like I still deal with like myself, you know what I mean? It's a lot of all the issues that carried over from the heart, it's gonna come right back here. So it's like here is like we talk about bridge, like look, it's like vulnerable, it's skinnier to the next part of my mind, and then it's skinnier to the heart. So a lot of times people say, oh well, I can't decide between my brain and my heart. Do you know how people kind of fight over that? And so when you go back and forth, if you go back and forth fighting that, then the throat chakra gets jacked up as a byproduct of that. And then so this guy is in charge of like harmonizing the frequency of the tones that you use to establish how much you want to put it in here and how much you want to put in your heart. At any point you can decide how much you want to like put in your heart and put in your mind. And it's like a balance, because sometimes people think like for example, at the poker table, when I'm getting my ass kicked, I'm thinking, and then I want to stay. That's me thinking too much of my heart. Like, hey, dude, like you don't want to, you know, go through more money like that. Go home. You can play next week, right? Or if you know what I mean? So, or you can decide certain situations, you know what I mean? If you're out in the streets to like, you use your mind to be safe or I don't know. So you get to decide. And then, so the throat chakra is like he's like the conductor. He's like the conductor of the stuff passing in and out, like a freeway or something like that.
You know, I find it interesting that you mentioned the bridge again, like even with your neck. I don't know if it's something I may end up saying it within the notes that I have. I don't actually remember if that one line's in there or not. But I will say that I find it interesting that even if you think about all the other chakras that we've covered, have all been in like the biggest part of our body. And like now, these are the ones that are just, it's all like this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Very
the last thing. One, we had our from shoulder to shoulder on that one.
Yeah.
And, you know, you mentioned bridge again, and then it made me think Mark Stavish, somebody that I read some of his books when I was practicing, and someone I'm really not too afraid to mention because I don't think his stuff is really harmful. So yeah, he had a book called Between the Gates. Highly suggest that book, and it focused a lot on your chakras and stuff like that. And he early in the book kind of like would focus. We'd give you lessons and stuff to do, and right away he seemed really big in on working on your throat chakra right away, and trying to envision colors, letters, Hebrew things, symbols, and it was like kind of, I think, almost open to like, whatever worked for you, but like trying to focus and get, colors in your mind and shapes going on in there. And he said that the reason why is because he's like, that is the bridge between your heart and your mind. And he says, you're going to need to make sure that that's working correctly to get it, to get anywhere.
Yeah. Well, because if not, you're going to drive yourself nuts, because that's pretty much like one of the biggest, like once we get all our stuff established with our identification and our ego, that's the big battle. You know what I mean? Because that's what people get torn up between. I can't decide whether to go with my heart or my, like people make it well, because it is too, because they I guess they kind of conflict a little bit. You know what I mean? Because analytics is different than emotions. Like they're on the opposite sides of the brain. So, and then I'm also
sometimes,
thinking,
sometimes, sorry, real quick. Sometimes I swear that's where they got the two-party system from.
Yeah.
Emotions and logic. That's it.
Bloods in the Crips. That's why it's Bloods in the Crips, and here like, there's North and South Cali and this and that, and So speaking of like how here it gets smaller and smaller, and here it was bigger, like with our base. What's funny too is that in terms of how they spin, they're spinning faster and faster. So the faster they spin, the smaller area they need, because here
hummingbird.
Yeah, because here they're spinning way faster, because the one that spins the slowest is the red one, the base. You know what I mean? And then so that's
maybe
like
it's all that
thing.
weight. Maybe it's all that weight.
Another one I'm thinking of is like when you kill someone, in a sense, like when they're gonna like if they want to take somebody out quick, where if you want to shoot someone, you're gonna kill them fastest in the head, right? Or if back in the day when you have like swords. And off with his head, you just cut him right at the throat. So it's like super sensitive, super vulnerable spots as well.
That's true, right? Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah, it's like so like with the throat, man. So it's like it's all about like communication, right? And I think that's why it has like ties to Mercury, because like in order to be a merchant and to sell, you need to be a good communicator. You know what I mean? So it's like, and then
gotta have the gift of gab, and like Mercury goes with communication. So I mean, speech.
And it ends up feeling good to stay in your truth, because that's the only way you could really express yourself is in your truth. So like the more you are in your truth, whether you know it or not, that throat chakra will get stronger. And like even what we're doing right now, we're exercising our throat chakra. We are doing a podcast where we're streaming out our voices. We're broadcasting our voices. So this kind of stuff also is very, like we're practicing it right now.
These microphones are literally sucking the vibration off of our throats.
No, my microphone's called a blue snowball, and the color for the chakra is blue.
Yeah, exactly. See? Yeah, dude, like even when
maybe that's what gave them the idea to call it a blue snowball.
Maybe.
Seriously. Yeah, like when I do I'll hear stories like on my show, my buddy Joe, the Mystical Rebel, he was talking about one of the ways that he likes to like raise his vibration, like raise his energy in order to get to like a meditative or trance like state, is he'll vibrate the sacred names of gods. You know what I mean? So it's like you're using this to vibrate tones. So this is like the beginning of like a channeler. That's why it's like the spirit, officially spiritual, where you could start to really go somewhere like, whoa, like, you know what I mean? And then the next thing you know, you're seeing shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there was people I knew, they weren't members of the OTO, but people who like every once in a while would like kind of like come through or swing by. You just hear about like other things going on in the community and shit like that, and occultism and magic. And there was a couple of people that I can't remember like where it was being done, who was running it. It could have been separate events, not even the same people, but I had heard of people going to like even like specific like meditations where you breathe a certain way and it almost like would induce like there were people who were like, yo, that stuff was like you just ate shrooms. They're like it was they were no, they said it was like hallucinogenic. And it was like it was literally just from doing a breathing practice for a long time. There are people who said that they felt like they went back to the womb just from doing specific breathing practices.
Speaking of the womb and the throat chakra, I don't remember if I mentioned this on a previous episode. Forgive me if I did. But like I did do some prenatal yoga training. So in that course, we learned that if you can relax your throat in labor, it will help you dilate faster in your cervix. Whoa. So that helps, your labor to
never heard of that, but
right? So instead, this does make sense.
It's a trick that they would tell you at a hospital or like.
No, they didn't tell me at the hospital. This is my yoga training.
Oh, yoga. Oh, okay. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, and prenatal yoga.
Yeah, they ain't gonna tell you that in the hospital.
Yeah, I was like,
yoga for pregnant people, basically. So I took it as a teacher, but interestingly, I was newly pregnant at the time I took the course, and like it was just worked out that way, which was cool. So it helped me.
I was going to say, did you use that?
Okay. So here's a funny little story for you. So I learned that, so first of all, the mantra syllable for the throat chakra is ham. So you could chant that to try to, balance your throat chakra if you want. So the teacher told us, if you can, instead of screaming when you're in pain in labor, focus all your energy on your throat and use like a low vowel tone, like a U or an O. So like om or something like this. Instead, and then channel the energy downwards to like your cervix and envision like a flower opening or something. Like sounds so ridiculous. Literally. But just do it. Like just do it and visualize it in your head, okay? So when I was in labor with my first son, it was taking a really long time for things to progress. I was overdue. It was like a whole thing. And so the doctor came in at one point and he was like, you are not dilating very quickly. We should think about maybe a cesarean section for you. Like just put in that in your mind. And I was like, no, like I do not want that to happen. Like I just want this to like happen naturally if I can. So I went like super Zen mode. And I just was like relaxing like my throat. And I was just like doing like humming to myself or whatever and like super chill. And then he came back like an hour later and he was like, how did you do that? I was like, what? He's like, you dilated like 4 centimeters in like 1 hour. And I was like, I don't know. I was like, just doing like my yoga thing. And he's like, that's amazing. He's like, you don't need the surgery. Like we're good. Like you'll be good. And I was like, all right. So
he's incredible.
Right? Yeah. And I used to have like people not chant, but like tone in pregnancy classes, like for yoga and stuff. So it was cool. Yeah. It's a little tip from me to you.
Yeah, that's interesting.
It's very magical. Very magical.
Yes, it is. Yeah. So it's interesting how it's all connected.
And you know what you just said, and it's funny how I didn't even catch it when because I was going to mention it myself. You did mention the sound, because I was going to get to that eventually, and that's ham. And, again, we were talking about how even this could be like, the bridge that goes between the heart and the mind. Ham obviously starts with an H. Haven't I always gone on about how I think some gods with an H or actually, the H does show like the separation of the coming together of two different things.
The bridge again.
And it's the sound is ham, and it starts with an H.
Yo, for real. And ham backwards is ma, like mom.
Yo, what up, ma?
Right, ma. Because now we're getting feminine, right? Because now we're getting feminine. What a trip, man.
Yo,
what a trip.
Oh shit.
Yeah, man. Like if you
that's yours.
Yeah, it's like for this one, it's like not only is it about like your expression, right? But it's also, believe it or not, it's also about listening. By Joe, it's
especially if you don't stop talking.
Yeah, if your throat chakra is overstimulated, you're gonna overtake everyone's convo, so you won't be able to hear anything. And then how we were talking about earlier of like tones and like vibrations, like where all these how you can vibrate and all that stuff. when somebody talks, and then if you're trying to call out their bullshit, you read the tones of what they're saying, because they might tell you up to your face of what you want to hear. Oh yeah, and why I'll have it, by next week and this and that. But you can tell by their tone, you're like, this tone is not it. Like you were able to read through that shit. You know what I mean?
Yo, just the fact that I was in.
Very subtle. It's very subtle.
I was in prison for 2 years. You better learn how to fucking read people's fucking tones.
Yeah.
No, just so you know, like I could already tell just from the way I hear him talk to somebody else. He's a scam artist.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like you have to realize who to fuck with. Yeah.
Speaking of investment, that's the merchants, right? Because, like I think of like how you got car salesmen, like they try to, some car salesmen, a lot of them probably have too much, like they have excess of chi here where it's, where it's spending too much or whatever.
Yo, probably. I never thought of that.
Yeah. So it's like a balance, because you don't want to be like how I was a lot of my life, like holding it back in front of people. In front of people, I would just let everyone go, and I'm holding all my shit back. Or you don't want to be taking over people's stuff where you can't listen to shit, and then you won't be able to catch anyone's BS. You want to you want it like at its equilibrium, and then that's how you get. The two naughties, how you were saying, that's how you get that equilibrium, Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point about the listening, for sure.
Yeah. That one gets overrated, but for every truth, the opposite's true in a way. And then so that's why for talking or expressing, it's also how you receive people's expression, and then like for this one, it's like I think of like authenticity a lot, because this is like where it really comes from, because it's like you find your voice, you find your true voice. And then even if you have like a fucked up voice, or like a voice that isn't like that pretty, or that this or that or that articulate, as long as you're being true to like yourself, like authentic to yourself, people will still like you, people will still respect you, you'll still get friends, like like that type of thing. Like you'll still get like your version of respect. So as long as you're authentic,
I even wondered, like, if, going along, I do believe, the silence and then the throat, it could even maybe just listening to the voice inside yourself and not actually saying anything, or even, learning to even listen to yourself in a sense.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah. I just didn't get, like for me, I didn't get like my bigger, like I didn't start having bigger moments until like I embraced like the silence or whatever. And like once I figured out the power of the silence,
deafening silence can be serious.
That was the beginning of like a lot of things changing. Like it gave me a lot of momentum after that. Yeah.
Well, how can you speak your truth if you don't even pause to know what your truth is or listen to yourself? Right?
Yeah.
How can you even know?
For sure.
So silence and listening is an important part of communication.
Sometimes I think like, sometimes people, I'll use memes again as a good example. You'll see it pop up on Instagram or whatever, and you'll just look at it real quick and not even have any inner dialogue with yourself. It's like, is this true? Does this even make sense? You know what I'm saying? You just, okay, that's new, and that's the hot thing going around. Just, let me screenshot that and share it. Like, there was no probably inner thought or dialogue on anything except for the fact, this is going to get me so many likes. You know what I'm saying? Like, was there any thought behind, like, what you're even posting? I mean, I know maybe sometimes I shouldn't be the one to say that, because I can post some crazy shit at times.
I think we're all guilty of that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a lot of times the off-the-wall shit I do, I actually do it on purpose. So there's a method to my madness.
It's all in the communication, you know what I mean? Yeah. Because in the end, we're really just talking to ourselves. Yeah. You wake up in the morning, you're talking to yourself before you go to bed. Like as you're going to bed, you're really talking to yourself still, I mean, God is always here, but it's, you through that, like, it's like you're kind of doing it to yourself in a sense. And so,
yeah. I like what you were saying, Louis, before about like being able to listen as part of this energetic center and like listening for the tone in what people are saying, because that's so true. Like when you listen to like the frequency of what someone is saying. So not to bring it back to like moms again, but another really interesting thing, because not a lot of podcasters are moms, but when you first have a baby, so there's this thing that this lady in Australia figured out when she had her first child. She has like super rich hearing. Like she's very gifted in like her listening ability. And she figured out that babies have a language, like when they're first born, and it's called Dunstan baby language, Dunstan, if anyone wants to look it up. I found out about it before I had my first son, and thank God that I did, because I also have like very sensitive hearing. So I feel like this was meant for me to like learn about this. So babies, when they cry from like age 0 to 3 months old, they have like tones in their cry and syllables in their cry. And if you are able to listen and pause and really hear what the baby is doing, you can figure out what they need real quick.
Dude,
So,
yeah, because
it's really cool. Like there's a cry for hunger, there's a cry for tired, there's a cry for
diaper, a wet diaper.
Wet, yeah, like I'm uncomfortable, change my diaper. There's a cry for lower gas and upper gas, so like burping or like, or they need to poop.
All that shit down. That's cool.
Yo, it is crazy, and it's only from age 0 to 3. And the more you listen and respond to that cue, the better the bond between you and your baby.
That makes all the sense.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, because you're communicating without even talking.
What it is. That's exactly what that is.
Because if I hear my son crying and I can tell, oh my God, he's hungry, I just pop a bottle in his mouth, boom, situation's taken care of. He's not crying anymore.
Yeah.
Right?
And then you won't have to you won't have to check the diaper. You can automatically just go to the kitchen. It's a bottle. And
exactly. Sometimes the gas ones are hard to distinguish. Like sometimes you're like, what is that? Like, is that a burp or like what? Or sometimes they're just like uncomfortable, and it's sometimes hard to distinguish. But there's a really good YouTube video on it. Yes, colic and stuff.
Yeah.
Exactly. There's a really good YouTube video on it where you can really hear the tones. It's like fascinating.
That's
wild. But not a lot of people have the awareness to stop and listen.
Yeah, that's why as a parent, you also want to have your nurturing side. You don't want to just be a straight up by the book. You know what I mean? Like, the book said this, and the book said that.
Worst. Don't do what the book said.
You will never be. I mean, if you want the book, or sure, but
no, don't.
You're gonna miss out on a lot of the instincts of the like. That's
worst advice.
That's you can't replicate that. Like
you can. It's true.
Like catching someone's tone, and you know off the tone that they're hungry. Like you can't replace that, man. Like
you really can't. And like it's so true. Like when with your subsequent children, if you have more than one, like the second time around, I was like, whatever. I'm just gonna do whatever I want, and it was so much easier.
Yeah.
Don't do what the book says. Just go with the heart.
Get out of my way. Get out of my way. I got this.
Go with the heart. You need these 3 chakras super clear when you have kids. Like heart, throat, third eye. Boom, you're good.
You can handle a little bit better, right? For sure.
Yeah.
When you think about it, that's like a real gift to be able to detect all this stuff. You know what I mean? Because like for me playing cards, that's like a Friday night right there. Like you're watching everyone do this to each other, and a lot of the times we're very quiet because we're trying to set each other up, and we're trying to read each other, like all reading each other, and we're trying to set each other up, and then so people are really paying attention to like the breathing, to the tones of everything, to like you know what's big, the tones of how the chips hit the mat. The tone of it, you could feel certain aggression. Some people are begging to get called. Some people are hoping that you don't bet them back. Like this whole
you can feel psychology playing that game.
The tone of the chip,
the face, the movements they make, the tics they have, the little things that they do. Yeah, again, you're actually learning to read somebody without opening your mouth at all.
Yeah,
you're shutting up and just listening and looking around to what's going on.
That's very spiritual. That's very spiritual. Like that's like those are spiritual acts because it's not physicality acts. Those are like some out there. Like that's when you're like how the little how the bugs have the little antennas and they're like they're doing some shit out there with it. You know what I mean? Like you're going out there with it. That's the beginning of that. And then as we go up, then we get even officially more into that, which is the indigo. You know, the indigo chakra. So I don't know if you guys want to start talking about that one now, but
oh no, well don't you have I want you to go into your card and then I'll go into my notes and we'll jump into that.
Oh, okay. Oh, you mean my tarot card?
Yes. Yeah.
There we go. So I think this was I pulled this one out. It's the Knight of Cups. And then you see here that the chakra, I don't know if you guys can tell, but there's a chakra right there, that light blue. So it's, and then this guy, he has a helmet and on the helmet it's the little like the feathers how we were talking about earlier, and then that gives me like a Mercury vibe. And then so it's like very messengery because this is like a messengery spot of the heart and the mind, like these two polarizing aspects in us. You know what I mean? And then it's funny because I know you've talked about it on your shows in the past that a lot of this stuff that we're doing here, one of the things that we're doing is we're harmonizing the mind and the heart. So like where we feel like there's not really that much of a difference, like where the echoes are the same. Because sometimes the echoes might be different. Like on a Friday, like 2 Friday nights ago, my echoes were very different of what my heart and my brain wanted. Like they were just opposites. And so this one's like cool. Like this guy's on a mission. He's ready to do like his work for that. And then like a knight has also like that vibe of like he's like working back and forth like that. And yeah, and then I also get like the whole Mercury, how we were talking about Mercury, like this color, that like light blue, which is it might be one of my favorite colors. And that's kind of why on my little when I do my StreamYard on my little top corner, I'll have my little face with that little blue bird.
Yes.
So then it's like I think of that like that kind of thing too. So yeah.
Nice. Well, even like Mercury, you know, when you start getting into like the Kabbalah and the Hermetic Kabbalah, or planetary magic, Mercury would be just a lower arc of Jupiter, but a higher arc of Mercury would be Jupiter, which then would be blue. So I could see how like, you know, Mercury kind of maybe getting closer to the higher arc, you would start adding blue into it. So even with what you were saying with Mercury and the blue stuff, I could see that for sure.
Yeah.
Well, Mercury is the same as Hermes, who was the messenger of the gods.
Yeah.
Communication.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, and wasn't Gabrielle a messenger of the gods?
Gabriel, yeah, is considered like the communication angel. Is
He,
he associated with blue?
Yeah, well, he is associated with with blue for the element of water.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, like for me, I think about like how messenger. So then I think of like angel, and then angels are the ones who bridge the spiritual and the physical realms. So then that's why when this guy with his feather, I think of like kind of like that, like the angel wing. Like I was thinking of that, like with Mercury or Hermes. You know?
Yeah, and the winged shoe.
Even
yeah, like that kind of vibe.
I do want to even mention in the LBRP when you call Gabriel, he's associated. He's behind you, and he's associated with water, you know, in the blue. So,
Well, that brings us back to birth again, you know.
It's funny, dude. Right when you guys said that, do you know what I just saw? I saw drink more water. This is for this chakra. So if you want to like help it out, drink more water. Make a conscious effort to drink more water throughout the day. So not only is it for hydration, but to help cleanse the throat chakra, allowing for healthy energy flow. So there's a lot of, you know, thing to that, you know, because that's why when you have a jacked up throat chakra, you're like, you know. And so yeah, you got that.
got dust in your throat.
Yep.
Yeah, but there's no dust in the room. Like you'll be somewhere where there's no dust, and all of a sudden you're like, why do I feel like there's dust? Like that's a throat chakra issue for sure, you know, or especially when you run into those people or like a mother figure, father figure, or just these people maybe at work or just whatever, and then it just kind of gets like that, you know what I mean? Like that feeling. So that's why I've been into like boundaries, you know, kind of about establishing boundaries and healthy boundaries and respecting boundaries and all that. And then, you know, what's funny about that is that chakras are the epitome of that, because they have their boundaries for sure. Like, cause they each, like, they don't, like they relate to each other, how we keep talking about relations and all that, but they also don't cross each other. They do their own job. They have their own color. It's like that for a reason, you know, like that's why the prism, you know, when you with the light when on the prism, it looks just like that. Like they don't cross into each other. You know,
no,
like,
they're all separated.
Yeah. So there's also it's like with reason, and then it like teaches you a lot, and also people like their space. You know, like each chakra wants their own space too, just how we like our space. You know what I mean? So.
All right, I'm gonna I'll jump into the notes I have, and then we'll move on to the next one. I did have the which I think you had already mentioned, Teresa. Purification. Location, throat, element, sound, function, communication, creativity, other manifestation, vibration, color, bright blue, sense, hearing, seed, sound, ham. Now, I do find this one interesting. We're talking about feminine again. It has 16 petals, which makes me think of 16 candles or Sweet 16.
Ah.
Very feminine.
Definitely.
The Sephira, they have Gabura and Chesed, which I do kind of get, but I would think that would be more of, for me, the third eye. But planet Mercury, metal Mercury. And then getting into like some of the notes that I had out of this book that I was using last time. I'm going to read off a couple of some stuff that I thought was interesting. Communication shapes our reality and creates the future. If I say to you, bring me a glass of water, I am creating a future for myself which contains a glass of water in my hand. If I say, please leave me alone, I am creating a future without you. From presidential speeches and corporate board meetings to marital fights or children's bedtime stories, communication is creating the world at each and every moment. It is clear that communication can direct consciousness in both directions of the chakra spectrum. Communication can be seen as a symbolic system that mediates between the abstract and the manifested idea. It formulates our thoughts into controlled physical vibrations, which in turn create manifestations on the physical plane, which I do think is very interesting. Like even speech, like it's really like, it's just it's a sound to the thought that's in your head. You know, it's very, deep if you think about it.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
We're just making noise, but for some reason we can understand each other,
It's calling something into existence, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. As we climb up the chakra column, each plane is said to vibrate at a higher, faster, and more efficient level than the chakra below it, just like Louis had said earlier. Light is a faster vibration than sound by about 40 octaves, which I find interesting, 40, because the fourth sphere would be the blue one. And thought is a subtler vibration than light. Our consciousness vibrates upon the substance of our bodies, energy affecting movement, and movement affecting matter. All vibrations are characterized by rhythm, a repeated regular pattern of movement through time and space. Real quick, just to go off of what they're saying here, I was even thinking, like, even speech, if you think about it, it's just rhythmic sound. You know what I'm saying? It's just like we're taking sound and throwing it out and just like making a rhythm out of it with our like teeth and our mouth and our lips. It's kind of interesting if you think of it that way.
Yeah.
These rhythmical patterns are deeply ingrained functions of our consciousness. The turning of the seasons, the rhythms of the day and night, the cycles of the moon, women's menstruation, the movement of breath, and constant beating of our hearts are a few examples. Again, that's even another one I think was important. Like we were talking about the heart and then the throat. The heart does have two different ways of go back and forth, No living things escape these rhythms. Rhythm, like change, is a fundamental aspect of all life and consciousness. Operating from the fifth chakra, a person becomes aware of things on a vibrational level. Again, like Louis was even saying, knowing your aura, knowing other people's aura, maybe setting up boundaries because maybe you're picking up a vibrational level you don't vibe well with, even what Teresa was saying earlier, again, with her and her mom. This is saying it right here. We may respond to the tone of a voice more than the actual words spoken.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Especially when you're already triggered. When you're already triggered, all you do is you're like, what? You're like, all of a sudden you just perk up.
You're hearing that vibration in that voice, and the vocal cords themselves vibrate, right? That's how you make sound.
That's all the sound is. It's a vibration, a version of vibrations, and then we just modify them.
And then the funny thing is that I guess like even going to the people that you're thinking about how you catch them. Unfortunately, most of us are not consciously aware of our actions and reactions on this plane. You know what I'm saying? So like the people that are probably putting out that bad vibe don't understand that they're doing that.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Yeah, even our perceptions through any of these senses are a function of perceiving rhythm. Hearing sound waves and seeing light waves are only two. The very mechanism through which nerve fibers feed information to our brains is through rhythmic pulsations of energy. From the first contractions of our mother's womb at birth to our last dying gasps, we are rhythmic. Dancing creatures dancing in what Ram Dass calls the only dance there is. And I even I liked that one because I even say that about, we were talking about the caduceus and like those, the male and the female. My opinion, that's all this is this little dance they're doing around that middle pillar we were talking about. Either you're dancing up or you're going back down.
Yeah. Very big dance. It's a very big dance.
Yeah. Can I add one thing?
Oh, yeah. I was going to go into something else too, but yeah, go for it.
Go.
No, I know we had mentioned mantras before too. And I do think, Louis, my opinion, that's what Louis was kind of even getting at with repeating certain things. To me, that's very mantra-like. And, this is the basic idea behind sacred sounds used in meditation and chanting called mantras. The word comes from man, meaning mind, and tra, which means protection or instrument. Thus, a mantra is a tool for protecting our minds from the traps of non-productive cycles of thought and action. Mantras serve as a focusing device for mankind. Mantras serve as a focusing device for making the mind one-pointed and calm. The vibration of the mantra has been likened to the vibration of someone's shaking your shoulders to wake you up from sleep. A mantra is designed to awaken the mind from its habitual sleep of ignorance. So I do think mantras can be very, very useful. I think it's even almost a way to maybe even reprogram yourself in a sense, or believe it or not, as silly as it sounds, I think the vibration that you're kind of doing over and over again just resonates through your body and may actually change the vibrational wavelength that you're kind of running on. Maybe something like that.
It's like overriding circuits. For me, like what I think about is, I thought about it helps you kind of hold yourself accountable in a way because you have a structure. And then so imagine you're going to the gym to work out and then someone gives you a structure. How you said they hold you by the shoulder, they shake this in you okay, you're going to do 5 of these and you're going to do 10 of these and call it a day. And so it's like a structure to help you hold yourself accountable to stay in a thing. And then so at the end of the process, you realize, oh, I did this. You're going to be a product of the thing that you did. So it's it's good to have structure. Structure is very good, albeit I'm an informal dude, but structure is very good.
No, I understand. And I agree. I just have one other page, and then after this, we'll go on. Chakra 5 is the center related to communication through sound, vibration, self-expression, and creativity. It is the realm of consciousness that controls, creates, transmits, and receives communication both within ourselves and between each other. Communication is the process of transmitting and receiving information through symbols. Again, I thought it was interesting when I read this, how I mentioned Mark Stavish before, Between the Gates. I was supposed to actually envision symbols in my throat chakra. So I was like, oh, very interesting. As written or spoken words, as musical patterns, omens, or electrical impulses to the brain, the 5th chakra is the center that translates these symbols into information. Communication, due to its symbolic nature, is an essential key to accessing the inner planes. With symbols, we have the means to represent the world in a more efficient way, one that gives us infinite storage capacity in the brain. I think what this person's getting into right here is kind of what we were saying before. Maybe sometimes shutting up and just trying to decipher something. Maybe sometimes symbols and trying to look at a piece of art and understand what it is instead of running your mouth. That will have a lot deeper of a meaning than something that could even be said. We can discuss things before we do them. We can absorb and store information in a concise form. We can synthesize thoughts into concrete images and store the images again as thoughts, all through the symbolic representation of perceived patterns. So again, it's like, when somebody goes to make a sigil or a talisman, all that shit means so much, and you didn't even have to say a word.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like the beginning of decoding, with that one for sure.
Yes. And then unless there was anything you wanted to add to Teresa on that last chakra, maybe we can...
Yeah, just real quick, something that I found interesting when I was researching. So the gemstone, or one of the gemstones associated with the throat chakra, is aquamarine, which I know happens to be the birthstone for March because my birthday is in March.
Oh.
And it's associated, I guess, with like the timing of Pisces, because March is mostly in Pisces, right? Which I found odd because Jesus is associated with like the age of Pisces, right?
Yeah.
And also, if the Sanskrit word for the throat chakra means purification or especially pure, I thought that interesting to be associated with him. And then the essential oil associated with the chakra is frankincense. And we all know that he got frankincense when he was a baby. Right? So I just thought it's odd because Jesus is also considered like the Word. He's the Word, the spoken Word of God incarnate.
Yes.
Right? And he's the way, the truth, and the life. So I thought that was interesting, just given like the Sanskrit meaning. Yeah.
That's very interesting. Yeah, it's a good tie. It's a very good tie there.
It's very interesting.
That's why he has me on.
Yeah.
Very nice. Very nice.
Right. Anyways.
Awesome stuff. All right, so Louis, do you want to hit us off with the third eye chakra? You want to start us off with that?
Yeah, the third eye chakra, man. So, what is it? I think it's called the Anjana chakra, but I'm not going to get into that one too much. I don't. But anyway, so your third eye chakra, so like right around here, in your forehead area, and I remember telling NY on our planetary series that we did a while back. I remember telling you the story about when I was a child. And in order for me to fall asleep, I would have to, like, if I was laying on my back and I was facing the ceiling, like my head, I would always have to put my arm right here over my head. Because if not, I wouldn't be able to sleep. And the reason why was because I was so damn ticklish right here. Like, if my chakra was connected up there, like to the ceiling, to the sky, it would just trigger this big ticklishness where I wouldn't be able to sleep. So I would either have to put my arm over here, or I would have to turn to the side, because as long as I don't go straight up, because if not, it will just be too stimulating. So then, so pretty much now that I know about like chakras and stuff, because this was me as a kid from like, I don't know, like as a little kid, right?
Yeah.
So, now I know that, I had a stimulated third eye chakra.
Yeah, it's like you had to calm it down to sleep, right? Like apply pressure and kind of cover it up.
Because if not, it will just be too ticklish. Like, I wouldn't be able to stand it.
That's so wild. Well, that's interesting you say that, because like a lot of the yoga poses associated with like balancing the third eye chakra has to do with like either like forward bends, which puts blood pressure and blood flow to like your head, right? Because you're upside down. Mm-hmm. Or like literally just like light pressure on your mat, say like child's pose, where your arms and your head is down. Yeah. So it's like applying pressure like right here.
Yeah, like I would have to block it in order to
that's wild.
If not, and then so I ended up as a byproduct of that, because I think I got tired of doing that. Like my arm will have to be up. As a byproduct of that, as a teenager, I think I started to sleep way more on my side, and then now I sleep like a Tasmanian devil. But anyway, and so it's a trip. So this one basically just how the throat was like about like expression, you know what I mean, and communication. This one is for me about vision and imagination. Like this is where you can start to, like it's like this is where you can, because with the imagination, that's what takes us somewhere else, and then with vision is how we're able to see stuff, like like literally with your third eye. Like this is like I guess there's like a lot of confusion or like the different talk of like the whole thing with the pineal gland. That is a more recent thing than not. Before it was always the chakra here. So I know they're related, but I think more of like the chakra is actually like the storefront, like the face of it. You know what I mean? And then you know how a lot of things happen behind the scenes. The pineal gland is a behind the scenes type of thing, and then that's where I think it's, as opposed to vision, it's the pineal gland is more of like a teleporter. Like, you know how like I talked about Silver Surfer and you can go somewhere else, like trans surfing. That is more affiliated with trans surfing, and just how this was a bridge. I think the pineal gland is a bridge between the crown and the third eye. So that's why I think it's more of like a projector or like a trans surfer.
Oh yeah. I think it's
For this one,
projector.
but for
I
the
think you're
actual-
totally right. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think, but for the actual chakra itself, it's more of like the storefront or the face for vision, for just to be able to see, and then like that, and then so yeah, and then so here we start expressing like what we want to see, and then here is where you can actually like see it in your mind's eye. And then you can imagine what they want to get out of you. You can imagine what you want to get out of the situation, kind of like that. So that's how you're able to, here you start to read people, but in here you really see it. You're like, oh, that's what it was. And then you can even see the different options. Like it'll be maybe more than one option. So it's like the mind's eye is very abstract. So, but at least you can start to see, you know what I mean? Like have that vision or whatever. So yeah, and so it's obviously very spiritual, you know what I mean? Because it's like it's etheric. You're out there, you know what I mean? And then so there is a difference between that and the pineal, because I think the pineal is like another job. It's like, but you wouldn't be able to do the pineal gland's job without the vision of the third eye chakra. But they're a little bit different, you know, like because to transurf like is different than actually just having a vision. You can have a vision here. In on the physical plane, you know what I mean? So it's about the vision instead. And
I think the third eye one even helps too with visualizing things like with your eyes closed as well. You know, like I thought that helped a lot with magic. Like when I got into like doing like rituals, I would eventually, when I got to know them like the back of my hand, I would start to try to do it with like my eyes closed, and I would actually try to like envision everything that I was drawing and like, you know, the colors and all this and that. And I do think the third eye, working on that one, helped a lot with being able to paint pictures with my eyes closed.
Hell yeah, that shit hella works, dude. Even for healing, like when I've done things like of that nature, closing my eyes is very useful. Like you're able to use how I keep talking about the antennas of the bugs. Like they get more stimulation sometimes with your eyes closed or whatever. Yeah, it's a trip. It's like I don't know. So for vision and then all this, it's like psychic to me, right? Like psychic nature, because that's how you're able to. Like there's a tie to that, and then so I have the high priestess. And then here we got like the moon, like the moon is there with it. You have the chakra tied to it. And it's very feminine, just how we keep talking about the themes of it gets more feminine as you go up. You know what I mean? And then I tie it to like more the right side of the brain as we go higher, you know, and then that's why she's more intuitive and more emotional, like as opposed to men who naturally it's not as much like that. You know what I mean? And then the guys are they're more practical, you know what I mean? They're like, oh, we got to do this. And they want to, you know what I mean? So the women they're more nurturing. They can do those emotional things and all that.
Yeah, no, I think it's spot on. I mean, again, like I think I was saying prior when we were recording, and, you know, not to like try to be sexual about it, but I really do think that like, you know, again, if you think about the third eye, and like what it looks like and how everybody always depicts it as an opening eye, and it's like, you know, whatever. Over here, I mean, it's not a stretch to say that could be a vagina. You know what I'm saying? So like, for the, you know, for her to fall there, I mean, again, to me, it's a very, you know, symbolism wise, to me, I can understand how that would still fit.
You know what I'm thinking about now? It's like a feminine energy is more as opposed to a man, which is like, bing, you know, a woman is sucking you in. It's sucking in. So what about if you suck this in here, you're going to end up in the pineal. You know what I mean? So maybe that's like a process of once you suck that in enough, then you get to that gland or whatever like that. You know what I mean? Like it'll funnel in through here, kind of like a little tornado or something.
Well, that would even go with the experiences I've said I've had before. I've had magical experiences just from meditating and fucking around with chakras and shit. I would move the energy up my body, and eventually it's like everything was just in my head. You know what I'm saying? And then, like, once I was able to, like, it was almost like going cross-eyed, but trying to, like, focus with my eyes closed to, like, this little pin. You get this, like, light at the end of the tunnel. Like, it was like a fucking train. Really like a train tunnel with the light all the way at the end of the tunnel, and it gets brighter, and then pop, you know, you go somewhere. But it really was like...
That's a trip. Did it feel like, I've had experiences, like, did it feel like your head was like getting hella bigger and bigger? Like you were like as if you were just getting bigger and bigger like that? Or
well,
was it more
you know
like
what, the funny thing is, and I've actually said this before. You said like this whole sucking feeling. I would feel like I got like, I would have like all my energy in my head, but like it didn't feel like pressure. Believe it or not, not before I'd had the experience. It just really felt that like my head was just like a floating balloon, which is funny because it's like, you know, maybe you're on a lighter vibration. It's not that heavy anyway. But the thing is that the feeling that I would notice again, like when everything would go through me and go up my body, it would feel like kind of like water flowing through me. But like up here, when I would start to have like those magical experiences, it almost felt like if you were like, I guess, pulled like the drain out of a sink. And it like almost feels like you're getting sucked out the back of your head. Yeah. And again, you said like a sucking feeling or a magnet. A magnet.
No, I've never, that's interesting. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. I think of this chakra as like the throat is like your outer voice. It's projective, right? But this one is more of like an inner voice. It's a still, quiet, perceptive, like the seat of your intuition or like concealed wisdom. So I feel like this one, the third eye, is much more receptive, much more feminine, whereas like the throat is a little bit more masculine. It's more projective.
It's more projecty. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's what it's like. Yeah.
So I feel like third eye is very receptive. And if you can be still, you can listen, you can receive, for lack of a better term, receive downloads in meditation. Yeah. Like this is where a lot of like sporadic knowledge comes from, which is probably knowledge we all just have within us anyway. But to access it, you need to be quiet, you need to be still.
Yeah. Right? I think out of all the damn chakras, if you had to say which one is meditation the most like beneficial for, I think it would freaking have to be this one. Right when I was thinking about it, I was thinking, well, would the root be second? Probably, but here's the thing about the root chakra. Imagine you're in fight or flight. Imagine like freaking you're getting kicked out of your house, or imagine something like just like that, right? You're not gonna want to meditate. You're gonna need a ground somehow to calm your ass down. Like ground by like that person is not gonna want to lay around for an hour to meditate. Like they're like, I need to get shit done. Like they're not even gonna be thinking about that. So that's why for this chakra, meditation is super, super cool. You know what I mean? And then it's very feminine because when you're meditating, you're doing nothing. That's more of like a feminine thing in a sense, right? Nothing as opposed to something doing. And yeah, that's cool, man. Like for me, I think about because like I can like tell like I can't see the color of auras per se, but I could tell a lot. I could just read a lot of people's bodies or something, right?
Oh, yeah.
So what I noticed, what I've correlated through the years of people who, like where it's very blocked here, is I noticed hella tension back here. And then I noticed that like they can't move their heads, like they can't turn their heads. And then a lot of those people would be like very computery people, like who are just like this for like 8 to 10 hours a day. And like they're, I feel like there's something very rigid or like
robotic.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then so with them, I noticed that for that one, it's like, damn, I think the pineal gland was probably calcified, like probably with water, like that type of thing. I think that freezes all that up, or they're really plugged in, so to speak. Like it feels like you can't unplug them. Because think about in the movie, the plug was really right here.
In the Matrix?
Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's like in your head. And then so it's like if you're hella tense back here, like in this part, it's like it's going to be very, very like you're going to do like a lot of work to unplug yourself, basically.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely. Well, this is like the sixth chakra, and it's, you know, your intuition is also called like your sixth sense. So not only is it like literally your sixth sense, it's also like the sixth chakra location. So I find that funny as well. And when you were saying NY, when you were saying NY about when you had magical experiences and you see like a point of light when you were meditating, and that point would like increase, you know, as you focus and whatever. You know how like in Indian cultures and religions they wear like the bindi,
the
little dots.
I have often wondered about. I swear to God, I have wondered about that after that experience.
Yeah, so like that's kind of what it's to represent, is to like represent the seat of like your concealed wisdom, right?
Now think about this. Now I know there's different colors for different reasons, but I mean I know there is a lot people could off the bat will think of red, right?
Yes.
Now if you think about if our third eyes are normally closed, the chaos and change that red would associate with would be opening it. So I do wonder if that's why there's sometimes a red dot there.
Yeah, that's what it's for, huh? Yeah, because it's like an initiator to like the one who break it in, like the one who broke it in. Yeah,
dude. I know. So the bindi is like said to retain energy and strengthen concentration. And I have my own built-in one. I have a chickenpox scar right in between my eyes.
No coincidences.
Yo, legit. Like that's the only chickenpox scar I have. Right there.
That's true. Like right now, how you said focus and like focusing like energy, focusing thought or whatever like that. I think of like, haven't you guys seen like pictures of like Professor X from X-Men? How he's like this, he's going like, he's like doing it from right here.
Yeah.
So
I think
he's hitting you with the indigo chakra.
There's a couple of podcast logos like that too.
I was just going to say that, but I didn't want to say anything. But I was like, you know how many podcasts I've seen with people focusing on their third eye, projecting shit? I mean,
you're right. I thought about Professor X, but you're very correct. Yes.
Well, and like when that chakra is overactive or underactive, headaches is a symptom of both. Yes. Right? Like I've had that happen to me sometimes when I feel like I'm meditating almost too much and I'm like too open. It's like a pressure all in the front of the head.
Oh, right? Yes.
So a lot of times when I meditate now, the odd time that I do it, I focus a lot more like projecting or focusing energy in my heart center. I don't focus it as much in my third eye area because it just becomes like overwhelming. It's too much.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
For me, I don't get headaches. Like I see people who overthink who get headaches. I'm like, that's where you get a headache. For me, it's like when I've gone like on, sometimes I go like on binges. When I've gone like on these study binges for like poker, like recently, that's when it was happening to me. And I was like, oh, what is happening? I was like, oh, like almost to get like a brain freeze from a slushie, but without drinking the slushie. So like, oh man, like I got the brain freeze without even tasting the sugar. You know what I mean? Like,
what the fuck? You got robbed, dude.
Yeah, like what the fuck, man? I'm all high. Anyways, like I think about the petals, right? So what's interesting for this one is that this one will give you, like when you look it up, this is the only one that'll give you a reference for two different ones. So the first reference they'll tell you for the lotus petals for this one is 2, right? That's the first option. And that could be for like the two ends of like the pituitary gland or like the two hemispheres of the brain. And then it's also, that's leading you to know that it's like the end of your perception of duality. How in the beginning, how earlier in the conversation today, I was talking about how the orange chakra is the beginning of your identification, like the beginning of your terms with dualism. And then this chakra right now that we're talking about is your ending terms with duality. And so that's when they tell you 2. And then the other one that they'll tell you when you look it up online or whatever is 96. And so for this one, when you add 96 up with the rest of this one, because this one is 1,000, when you add them all up, that's 100. That's 144,000 that they be talking about. So
what's the 96, Louis?
It's this chakra.
Oh, that's interesting. Because the top of the Masonic arch is 69, the Cancer symbol.
Oh, yeah. It's
collapsing 2 pillars into one.
Yeah. It's 96 lotus petals, yeah. And then so that's the whole thing. How people were saying, "Oh, the 144." Like for me, it's just hard to believe that it's going to be a certain amount of people or incarnated people. It's all of us. It's all of us on the what technology we have inside. We're the technology, and then so that's letting you know that we have it all inside of us. We can do it all through us. You know what I mean? And then so yeah. So that's the other. So it's funny because this chakra, like this is the only one where it'll give you two different stories, but I like either.
I don't think I ever heard of that one with the. I've only heard of the two. I never heard of that one before. That's interesting. That's bugged out how it's 96 and really does work.
It all
with
adds
cancer.
up. Yeah, because I did the math. I did the math on my old chakra episode. I'm like, no, it adds up to 144,000 perfectly. And this was about the time where all the videos you see online, people are talking about the chosen ones, the chosen ones, the chosen ones, and then so it's like. You end up secluding, like, to bring in these, and everyone thinks they're a part of the 144, but you're secluding the rest of the world. Like, no, it's actually the whole world. Like, once you realize who you are.
Yeah, it's a figurative number. There's actually a Bible verse also.
Yeah, no, that's where it's from.
Yeah, so there's a Bible verse in the book of Matthew, chapter 6, verse 22, and it reads, "The light of the body is the eye. If therefore thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light."
Yeah.
Very interesting. Very interesting. There's actually something I was going to get into eventually when I do some of my stuff. How I do think I do think, like, besides the brain, I think it is a besides it's a connection between your eyes and your brain in a sense. I think this kind of goes with, and I do even think that is why the king that sits on the blue sphere has a rod in his hand. He's holding up a rod. As the rods are in your fucking eyes.
Oh, yeah. Rods and cones. Oh, shit.
Oh,
that's good. Oh,
that's funny.
Yes.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah, man. Yeah, like yeah, and so it's like look, even like in my hat. So like I got this like very, very light blue, right? And then the purple. So when you mix those two together, that's the indigo. You know what I mean? That's the color. And so it's the mix of the violet and then the communication chakra. So yeah, man, it's like
just think real quick too. You said, sorry to interrupt, but like you did mention the cones. Just even think about, all right, you got the king who has his rod, and then you can have a dunce or a fool with the cone hat on their head.
Oh, yes. And I love both of those roles.
Rods and cones.
Yes. I'm all about that Duncey guy, that dude. I'm all about him too.
Why do you think I used to have the dunce cap? I've worn it a few times. I should wear it again.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I get the full vibes from tarot, which I embrace a lot, and then even like the gestures, like back in the.
I think the jester hats are kind of showing the cones, but they're just bent over.
Yeah, man, I love the jester. I'm like a jester in a way where only the jester in society could get away with. He could be the only one on stage with a king, but he's not a king. He's not formal at all. He's no royalty. He's not formal, right? But he can be on the same stage, on the same platform as them, and be like a goof. And then he gets love for that. So I think that's just like the best shit. And then he can say shit to the king, and only he can say where the king will be like, oh yeah, like haha, like it's a part of his job to like only he can give him goofs, because if somebody else from the audience did that, it wouldn't end well. But like for him, like he has all the leeway. He can break all the rules. Like I love that Joker, like that fool from the tarot, like that. Like I think he's cool like that.
I was even I was thinking about it earlier. It was like one of my weird thoughts, but to kind of like to even go back to like the whole king thing again, like I was saying before with like lights, with rods. It sound a little bit bugged out, but like that does fall with Jupiter, and I have always thought that the J for Jupiter, even really for Jesus too, for a lot of J's, like if you look at it, you're kind of drawing something like, I guess depending on how you draw a J, but you are going from one way maybe to another. Like you could be turning around. You know what I'm saying? Going back in, and it looks like a J or like a hook. And what do you throw hooks with? Rods.
And catch
just
the
like you said,
So you can catch the
in
fish.
the water.
Oh.
Oh my!
and isn't it funny?
And
when
you know
say
what's
turn
really
around?
weird too? If you thought about your eyes, it's kind of gritty, just like sand, isn't it?
Yeah. And that's why you need eye
It's
drops.
probably the sands of time right there, is your fucking eyeballs.
Wow. Right? And yeah, I think about how you were saying turning around and then with the hooks, like that's why you say, "Oh, I'm gonna hook the left." Like that's a literal saying.
You're off the hook.
Yeah. Right. Oh man, dude.
Man.
That fool's off the hook.
Right. Literally.
It's fucking weird.
Literally.
Right?
Yeah, like for me, it's like I get happy in a sense of how this chakra has made me happy is like because I have like faith. Like I've like that was like that's like one thing that helped me get initiate like get me like started and stuff like that on my journey. It was like because you got to have faith, right? And then because without that, it kind of wouldn't go anywhere. But then once you start getting deeper after that, like just kind of once you start getting the ball rolling, I've gotten like from what I've seen through the help of this chakra is that for me, that's my version of like proof, like where I've seen it. And I'm like, dude, I've seen it. Like I saw it in my mind's eye. So then with that, like that was all I really needed. Like I'm good with that. And then so that's like for me personally, that's like my version of like the truth. I'm like, okay, it's in there. Like I saw it with my mind's eye, so I'm okay with it. Like I have closure. So for me, it's given me a lot of like peace and closure and happiness because it's helped me to get my versions of proof, at least for me, like whatever will suffice for me. And so yeah, so I'm grateful for that. That's like what I've seen. Yeah.
If you guys don't mind, Teresa, you got anything you want to add before I go on?
No, I think we mentioned the, collapsing two pillars into one and relating that to the nadis, right? I forget if that was before we started recording or not, but I just wanted to make sure we mentioned that. Like, you have the central channel, Sushumna Nadi, Ida and Pingala being the two energetic channels, the male and female channels, and they converge at the third eye, and that's the last place they converge. Yeah. Not in the crown chakra.
Yes.
So this is the last point in between your two hemispheres of
this is like that's where it really ends. Yeah, because for sure. Yeah, I told NY in our planetary series that the last one here, was like Saturn, but it's like the last. It's actually I would call this one like a barometer, meaning it's just the one that measures. It didn't actually do anything like that. Like the ending is right where you said it. Mm-hmm. Like that's the actual ending. So this is like, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely get behind that.
Yeah, that's all I had to say.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, yeah, you already did the name. Meaning to perceive or to command. Element, light, essential form, image. Function, seeing or intuition. Gland, pineal. Color, indigo. Body parts could be the eyes. Seed sound, Om. Petals, 2, which I do think, like Louis was saying, I think in a sense you will shut off the two eyes and maybe start using the two halves of your brain more. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sephira.
It symbolizes, yeah.
Yeah, I think like switching of like, or going in. I even think, honestly, I'll be totally honest with you, I think the rabbit ears sometimes, or even the peace sign, or, the peace sign I think is multiple things, or even the term rabbit hole is actually literally your eye sockets. But, I don't know. Yeah. Planets, Jupiter or Neptune, metal, silver, foods, entheogens, corresponding verb, I see. I did want to include the animal associated with this is the owl.
Ooh.
Some Twin Peaks fans think about that. The owls, not what they seem. Who knows?
Yeah, sharp and intuitive. That's cool.
Yeah.
Mm.
And then I'll go into some of the notes that I have here. Why our petals have been steadily increasing in number as we climb up the. How do you say that? The shush. You said it before.
Sushumna.
Yes, very well said.
Yeah,
we suddenly have only 2 petals at the this chakra. There are many possible interpretations of their meaning, the two worlds of reality, manifest and unmanifest, the intertwining nadis and Pingala, which meet at this point, and the two physical eyes that surround the third eye. The petals also resemble wings, which I wonder now. You know, if you think about on the caduceus, where those two heads meet, you have wings there. Mm-hmm. The petals also resemble wings and symbolize the ability of this chakra to transcend time and space. That's kind of another reason why I was saying maybe our eyeballs are really the sands of time, because maybe that is just creating the time and space in here. Maybe there is none. Allowing the inner spirit to fly to distant times and places. It is interesting to note that if you compare the caduceus to the chakras and nadis, the two wings occur where the sixth chakra would be. One further interpretation is that the two petals surrounding a circle resemble the whites of the eye itself as it surrounds the iris. The corresponding element to this chakra is light. Through the sensory interpretation of light, we obtain information about the world around us. How much we are able to see depends on how open or developed this chakra is, including, to some degree, the acuity of our normal eyesight. The gamut of visual and psychic ability can run from those who are extremely observant of the physical world to those who are gifted in psychic perception, who can see auras, chakras, details of the astral plane, precognition, and remote viewing. Unlike the 5 lower chakras, which are situated in the body, the brow chakra is located in the head. Therefore, its nature is more mental than any of the previous chakras. Our visual perceptions must become translated into other forms, such as language, actions, or emotions, before they can be tangibly shared. As we become more mental, we leave behind the limitations of time and space and enter a transpersonal dimension.
Trans-surfing. Like Silver
Well,
Surfer.
you know, see, again, like if you were to think of, now this is even what I was saying. If you were to open up the third eye and let's say there is projective light going inside, you know, because I think it even gets into it where your eyes read the light. It does not go into your head. Your eyes read it and then transmute, things to your brain to tell you what you're seeing. There is no actual light going into your head. Your eyes do not let light actually hit your brain. That doesn't happen. You know, so like now if, let's say, the pineal gland was to actually do that, you know, I'm wondering if that is like, fuck, I forgot where I was going. All right. So no, that would be projective light inside your head. That would be now male and female energy working together.
And they're dancing.
That's where I think like the hermaphrodite and the trans thing come into play in occultism.
Oh, look at that word.
Into occultism, but that I think the problem is that the idea of what these words meant are totally misunderstood. That's the whole problem. People actually think that we're talking about something in the physical world, and then like, well, I want to be that. When it's like, you know, Shakespeare was just showing mixtures of energy. He wasn't actually showing cross-dressing. Fucking idiots just took it as cross-dressing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And then it just progressed from there, and now we have this, you know, ridiculous shit going on. It's, in my opinion, all that stuff is due to the misunderstanding of this shit. Because people misunderstand this deeply occulted shit, they get played on and manipulated, and they're out there in the streets with 10 different fucking names for a gender. You know?
Yeah. There's a lot of trickery, and then it's easy to get tricked. They're more easier to get tricked and blah blah blah. Yeah.
The pineal gland, sometimes called the seat of the soul, acts as a light meter. Weren't you saying a meter before too, actually?
We were saying barometer.
Oh, barometer.
That's the last one. Yeah.
Oh, this one was
this
saying.
is like the culmination, and then the we're gonna do later on is like the barometer or whatever.
This one says acts as a light meter for the body, translating variations in light to hormonal messages relayed to the body through the autonomic nervous system. Over 100 body functions have daily rhythms which are influenced by exposure to light. The pineal reaches the height of its development at age 7 and has been thought to influence the maturation of the sex glands. So I thought that was just interesting to throw in there. The age of 7. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how true that is or how correct that is.
Well, they say like the age of 7 is when you reach like the age of reason. And that's why in Catholicism, you make your first communion around 7 or 8 years old. Because they feel you can discern enough by that age to know what you're doing.
I'm guessing like for me, like, that makes sense.
Psychologically too, that's when they say, children exit like early childhood. That's the end by 7 years old. And like a lot of your subconscious actions and traits will be set by 7.
Isn't that like right around the time you have your first Holy Communion? Like around 7 or 8, around 7 or 8, because I did that
exactly.
as a kid. I was like 7 or 8 years old or something like that.
That's why it's at that age.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck, I lost my train of thought, but
it's all right. Yeah, it's okay. Oh, I got here. I'll go and you can think about that. At the 5th chakra level of awareness, we experience vibration as an underlying manifestation of form. At chakra 6, we encounter a higher, faster vibration than that of sound, though of a fundamentally different character. Here we embrace the part of the electromagnetic spectrum that we perceive as visible light. Ultraviolet radiation, radio waves, X-rays, and microwaves are just a few of the many waveforms within this spectrum that are not visible to the eye. Light is the form directly perceivable by consciousness, whereas sound is expressed through a wavelength oscillation of air molecules. Light is a far finer vibrational energy produced by radiative emissions from atomic and molecular systems as they undergo energy level transitions. It's fucking deep shit right there. In a very real sense, light is the voice of atoms and molecules, whereas sound is the voice of larger structures. Light is electromagnetic energy. Through the photons or without mass, light can induce an electric current upon striking metal, a phenomenon known as photoelectric effect. Photons striking the metal displace electrons in the metal, which induces a current. The interesting thing about this effect is that the lower frequencies of light, such as red light, for example, do not have enough energy to induce a current, regardless of their intensity. I found that interesting. At higher frequencies, such as blue or violet, a current is produced, which then will vary with the intensity of light. So now, even with these colors,
so
these colors
can't do the light like that.
These colors going up even kind of go along with electricity again, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. And I remember what I was thinking. You had mentioned the autonomic system for this. And then I was thinking about earlier when we talked about the root, that's like the, is that like the parasympathetic? You know what I mean? That's like all that, the different, it's like the opposite of the autonomic. So you have the two nervous systems, and that's why the red and then this part right here, they're like polarizing. And then that's why like in like the tower card, it has those colors because it's like the polarizing natures of the red. And then once you get to this indigo, like the red and the blue are remember I said like the red and the blue side, the Bloods and the Crips, and like the parties and all that. It's the like the opposites. And then so this was the autonomic. So I think that has some kind of tie to like the age thing too, or like maybe that's when it's developed, like at 7 years old.
Well, like the autonomic nervous system consists of the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system. So that's the two. So the sympathetic nervous system is like a fight response, and the parasympathetic is like a chill response, like a relaxing. So you want to, when you meditate, you want to like practice your influencing your parasympathetic nervous system. Yeah, so you can calm yourself more. Whereas like we go into automatic knee-jerk reactions, that's our sympathetic nervous system, which is we're in fight mode like 90% of the time.
Yeah,
yep. So you have to really practice the parasympathetic. Exactly. Yeah, and like a lot of people in modern society, like honestly, their parasympathetic nervous system is broken.
Oh, damn,
like they literally cannot relax, especially like over the last few years, what a lot of people have been through, since 2020 onwards. A lot of people have been so traumatized they cannot relax at all. They're constantly in sympathetic mode.
I guess that explains a lot of stuff that I didn't like. That makes a lot of sense.
It does. Yeah. And I think that's, by design, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're never like getting a chance to like tune in, to yourself or, focus on that internal voice. Never.
Yeah.
For a lot of people.
It's like hard to get to your core. And then from there, it's like, oh man. It's
hard to get to your core and hard to connect with higher power spiritually.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. If I could read one little, I like this one little sentence here for the third eye.
Go for it. Yeah. And then we'll wrap it up soon.
Yeah.
Sure.
So when the third eye chakra is in balance, you have carefully honed intuition, and more importantly, you trust it. You're able to cut through the world's noise and distractions to follow a clear vision of your life. You have a sense of the bigger picture with an ability to detect new and interesting patterns. You're open to change and trust in its potential. So it's like all this like clear vision and trust. And that's why like for me, I was like, oh, like that's like proof. Like for me, I'm like, that's enough proof like of like what I need for now. Like I'm okay with that. So yeah, there's like a lot of like clarity, like how's the clear vision, a lot of clarity and a lot of like for me closure. So yeah, it's pretty bomb, man. It's a pretty good one.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to go back to the owl thing real quick, it just made me think, an owl is something that can like see at night. It can see through the dark, right?
Yes.
Which is interesting. It perceives light even in darkness. Yeah. And also like the face of an owl, if you look at like where the eyes are and stuff, it looks like the Pisces, like horoscope symbol, like an astrological symbol, and also kind of looks like a toroidal field. So going back to like the electrical.
Exactly. Yes.
It's funny. I've seen contemporary problems and symbolic studies actually in the past.
Yes, I probably saw it on my
page,
like,
posts
recently.
About stuff like that. And I was like,
yeah, I know, it's so trippy, right?
That's so cool.
And the owl
it's all in nature.
It's all in nature with wisdom.
Right? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that there's something. I mean, that's even like, I even wonder like the Vesica Pisces again. I even think the Vesica Pisces is starting to get up here with the whole third eye. That could even be like you were saying, the top of the pillars. Well, you have the two circles coming together.
Yeah.
And
all the occultic symbols, how you guys are talking about it drops into one. That's the middle. That's the inside of it right there. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we've talked about it on way back when we did episodes on Drake. Right? Everyone's favorite Drake. And he's obsessed with like the Minerval owl, like the owl of Athena. Right. And then we discovered that in the OTO, isn't one of the like first
Minerval.
Or like the Minerval is like the first initial, like, not initiation, but like when you're curious about it, you can be a Minerval and like take classes and stuff. So
I heard NY talking about that one. Yeah.
There was another guy. I can't remember his name. Some other rapper that is into owls too. I didn't know he has a few owls. He did that song Hey Ya.
Outcast?
Yeah. Not the skinnier guy though. The other dude. I think if you go on his Instagram, this dude's got like a couple of owls.
Andre 3000?
No. The other dude. No,
the other dude. Oh, I forget his name. Big boy.
Yeah. I think he has owls too. And I was like,
oh wow. Well, Big Boy on his solo, because when they did the Love Below, and then Big Boy had his version. One of the tracks on Big Boy's album was called it was like Sir Lucius Left Foot. So yeah.
Oh wow.
Very interesting. Yeah. Very interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That one I remembered. Yeah.
You're like, I'm not gonna forget the name of that one.
Yeah. I'm gonna go check that out. Yeah. I'm gonna go check out the lyrics.
Yeah.
Well, thank you both. I do think with this chakra, I guess really just to like wrap it up real quick, I do think a lot of this has to do with like kind of, closing your eyes maybe and learning how to like read with your eyes closed to a certain extent, or see or envision your world that way. I do think it can also get even deeper to, like, this I guess kind of goes with my theory when sometimes I do say I wonder if this is hell. Maybe the light that we're living by is actually Lucifer, and we can't get away from it with these eyes open. But if you close your eyes and pop open your pineal gland, that will actually be the true illuminating light that you should be looking with, maybe. But not it's so deep as that, because I know that is a little bit out there. But I do think really with this chakra,
not for me. I like that.
With this chakra, I do think it is really more of being able to feel your world and understand your world with your eyes closed. Maybe even be able to learn how to paint beautiful pictures and movies with your eyes closed of the world you want to be in or imagine. But I do think a lot of it is really fine-tuning your brain in a sense without having to have your eyes opened on things,
Yeah,
there's a lot more of
like a rewiring, in a sense. Yeah,
very well said.
Yeah.
And thank you both for jumping on. Louis, would you like to plug your show again real quick?
Yeah, so Uncanny Mystic Minds podcast. I'm on all major platforms. Spotify has the videos. I'm starting to dump stuff on YouTube now too. So yeah. You can find me there really easy. And then we even have our Cool Element server that freaking it'll drop the episodes like right as I drop them. Then it gets on the RSS feed, and then really good stuff, man. Really good.
I'll have to see how to. I know there's ways to tag channels. I'll see if there's a way I can tag you when this drops on your YouTube channel.
Yeah, hell
so,
yeah.
like, I think it might pop up to your subscribers that, we did this together. So,
yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to figure out if there's a way to do that. I'm almost positive there is. Yeah, I'll have to do that with you, too. If I can figure it out, I'll have to do that with both of you. And in saying that, Teresa, would you like to plug your show?
Sure. So, yeah, please check out Spiritual Gangsters podcast. It's on YouTube, Rumble, major podcast platforms, and I am on Twitter. I have like no followers, so come follow me on Twitter. The link is in below or whatever. And
come get at me, dog.
Yeah, come tweet at me. And I'm most active on I'm most active on Instagram if anyone wants to catch up.
Yeah, all my Twitter followers, go jump over and hit that follow button.
Thanks.
Yes, but thank you both so much for coming on. I thought that was an amazing episode. I had a really good time. I thought that was a lot of really good, kind of like deep talk, and I think all of us.
We're all I learned a lot, and then so we're all learning, and so hopefully people out there learn a little bit, and then so that'll all help everyone out in the end somehow. You know what I mean? So
yeah, I really like how we all come from this in different angles. And it all kind of makes sense and meshes together well. So until the next one, everybody be well. Later.